Good evening. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Haven City Council for Monday, November the 16th, 2020. Welcome, good evening, those in person and those remote. Let's call this meeting to order. If we could begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call. Travis.
Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Chris Campbell.
Here.
Joe Reeser.
Here.
Steve Schlack. George Sleeper.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins. Scott Smith.
Here. And I know we heard from both Letitia and Steve. They will not be here, so I can get a motion to excuse them.
I'll make a motion to excuse Steve and Letitia.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to excuse council members Schlack and Wilkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. They are excused. Next, we have the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. Are there any changes, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's approved. Do we have Gail on the phone?
Checking, sir.
Okay, we have our normal kind of a biweekly update from our county commissioner, Gail Patterson-Gladney.
Gail, you're on with council.
Hello, this is Gail Patterson-Gladney,
Hi, Gail.
County Commissioner for District 1, and thank you for your time. I have some news from the county. The 2020 drain and lake level assessment, commissioners accepted the special assessment rolls for drains totaling approximately $519,497 and authorized the spread of these amounts to the various properties involved. Concerning the district court administrator, the courts hired Robin Papio-Anu as the new district court administrator, and she replaces Susan Zeiderveen. And then the emergency planning grant, the commissioners approved the acceptance of a $36,906 grant for the Sheriff's Emergency Management Department. And this is part of the National Preparedness System. And then the last item has to do with Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. They launched a media campaign promoting free mental wellness counseling, and it's called Be Kind to Your Mind. It has to do with helping people cope with COVID-19 and possible feelings of depression, anxiety, anger, or loss. And anyone who would like to use that Michigan's COVID-19 hotline, they would call that and then press 8. And the hotline number is 888-535-6136, and then they press 8 at the prompt. That's open 24 hours a day. It's free and confidential. So I just wanted to share that information, and if anyone at the city wants more information on that, I could send them more information. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? I don't see any. Thank you, Gail, for calling in.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Goodbye.
Very good. That takes us to the consent agenda items A through D.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, please.
Arnold.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Reeser.
Yes.
Sleeper.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. That takes us to old business. City Council will be asked to take the following actions regarding the proposed golf cart ordinance. First, we need to hold a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open a public hearing on the proposed golf cart ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to open the public hearing on the golf cart ordinance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's open. All right, so Kate, why don't you go ahead and just remind us how we got here, and then we'll seek public input, and we'll vote it up.
Sure, this is the culmination of some work that happened at the Planning Commission where we started looking at some regulations to, I guess, better address some of the concerns that the community has been seeing. with golf cart operation in the city. Here we're at our second reading of the golf cart ordinance, and just to clarify, this ordinance pretty much codifies in our ordinance what we opted into in 2016 via resolution, which is the Michigan State statute. Here, we're also adding a few items to better address some safety issues. Here, we're asking for, it would be golf carts could not carry more than one persons at the time that it's designed and equipped for. We're asking for a seatbelt to be worn by all passengers. That also means that if a person is used to having a babe in arms, kind of holding people in their lap, that's addressed in subsection F, meaning that all persons must be seat belted in. We're also looking at that they must have liability insurance coverage. We also have some stop lamps and mechanical signal device, exterior mirrors, like I said, safety belts, and parking brakes. So those are some of the changes that are here before you tonight, and this will be our second reading, meaning that if the council approves tonight, this would mean adoption.
Very good. Well, this is the part we hear from the public. So again, 637-0777, if you'd like to call and make any comments. Anybody from the public here to make any comments? Rosalie is here to bless this ordinance. We hope.
I'm not allowed to
Good
do
evening.
it as a woman.
If you could please just state your name and address. And
Rosalie Placati, 559 Monroe Boulevard. I'm just here to say, hopefully, thank you. Everybody's worked on this hard. It's important. I know these are not easy decisions for any to make, you all to make, but just know I appreciate it as well as a lot of other people in South Haven too, that you considered this and hopefully vote unanimously to adopt. Thank you.
thanks, Rosalie, and thanks for your work to get it to us on the PCs. We appreciate it. All right. Any callers, inners?
No callers yet. We have about 15 seconds to go.
Very good.
No callers, sir.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and let's close the public hearing, then we'll get to council comments.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is closed. Next, we have a motion to consider approval of the golf cart ordinance.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommended golf cart ordinance.
Second.
I'll second it.
Very good. We have a motion second to approve. So, Kate, we've heard from you. So, council, anything else anybody wants to share? I know, Kate, I talked about two thoughts. One, I just want to make clear in the section, I know you mentioned section F, it says they must, if we could just put in parentheses or something that says no, as I think you said, babes in arms, but, we can't have children on laps. I just want that to be clear, that, so they can't say, well, I was restrained. I didn't know my child couldn't be on my lap. Just so if that could just be however inserted. And then, I know I brought up the issue, I have a concern just about issuing stickers to residents that are not city dwellers, i.e. in the township, because they haven't passed a golf cart ordinance. So therefore, they're technically not legal in the township. So they're legal once they get here. So I've asked Kate to just, if we could look at the registration process. Number one, we need to make sure that, I know we talked to Ross, but I just want to be clear that we're not making them legal in the township. So the minute they pull out of their road, they're illegal. That's not it's not the city. So I think people need to be clear on that. Number two, they're going to have to specify in their application their legal route into the town. So, i.e., I'm taking a trailer or whatever. Just, I think there needs to be, I'm hoping that if people are sitting there filling this out at the police department, this is how I'm going to legally get in there. We're just trying to make sure everyone's clear. Again, this is a city process, this is a city ordinance, and I'm not trying to dictate what they're doing in the township. I just want to make sure that we're all clear that this is our process. And if the township wants a process, that's great. And I'm not trying to get in their way. I just want to make sure that golf cart owners are aware that it's may not be legal if they're in the township. That's all. So I don't want anyone getting hurt as a result. That's all.
And if I understand it correct, our concern is there's not any streets that they can get into the city, that a township resident can't get their golf cart into the city because there aren't any streets with the speed limit. Is that with the,
To an extent, Jeff. So
There's-
if you're
okay.
coming from Casco Township, I believe you can come down, I think it's 74th.
okay.
I believe that you can get down that road, but I could be wrong. But I do know that using North Shore Drive, that you could, I could think, access that, but I'm not entirely sure. But I know that's one route. And I do know that at least a couple people have been given dispensation from the state to allow people to use their golf cart as a mobility device.
Okay.
So they can use the Cal Haven and Van Buren State Park trails.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly how that they're accessing the city streets, but it's not a hard thing for us to ask when they come to apply. You know, how are you going to be, oh, I see you're out in the township. What's your legal method for getting into the city? And just reaffirming that this is a codification of state law into our city code, but it does not alleviate your, you know, your duty or obligations under state law in your own streets in the township. So there's, that's still on the table, so we can make that clearer to folks who are coming to register with the golf carts here.
Perfect. That's all I'm asking. Those were clear. Anything else?
My one, I know that if Steve Slack was here, he would say he doesn't like when we make changes because some of the residents are snowbirds and they take off. And so with that concern, I just want to make sure we do a good job of publicizing this, you know, social media and emails, and let's do everything we can, put it in the monthly newsletter to
Will
make sure
do.
that the people know about the changes.
Okay?
Good idea. Good plan. All right. See no other changes. We have a motion and a second to approve the golf cart ordinance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Thank you, everybody. Yay, we got applause. Yay. New business.
A round of applause.
City Council will be asked to consider approval of the proposed sublease for the South Haven Memorial Library as presented, subject to minor modifications that may be requested by the other parties and are deemed acceptable by the city manager and city attorney.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed sublease for the South Haven Memorial Library as presented, subject to minor modifications that may be requested by other parties that are deemed acceptable by the city manager and city attorney.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. So Kate, this is the library.
Sure, so this is just a further kind of going down the rabbit hole of the Joint Building Authority taking ownership of the library in the purpose of doing the renovation project. And typically, the library building is owned by the library, and of course, there's the millage or the funding units. So what we have here is a library sublease that kind of goes into a few things that weren't either contemplated or have come up since we've started this process. One are if there's some alterations or improvements that are being asked for the exterior or interior that are exterior that are over $5,000, they have to submit written permission from both the city and the township. The library is responsible for paying rent throughout the term of the sublease. Of course, once the bond is paid back for the renovations, the sublease is then is terminated once the bond, basically what we all took, the city and the township took out, bonding for this project. So once that's paid off, the sublease is finalized, and the library is responsible for ensuring the building and restoring it in the event that it is damaged or destroyed.
Okay. Very good.
Yep, sorry.
Public comment 6370777. We'll just put that out there if anyone has any comments. Council discussion comments on this one? Pretty, it's a sublease. It's Building Authority handles the renovation process. Do we have any timelines on?
We are finalizing a few last items with the Joint Building Authority. I think we're trying to get a pre-construction meeting with the USDA, which very complicated paperwork process, but we're hoping to get started on this pretty soon because the sooner we forestall it, the more they're going to have to go into next summer's season. So
Right.
hopefully we can get this started pretty soon.
Excellent. I know we get a lot of questions on that, what's going to be going on, so good.
Kate, do you have any ideas what, we're talking about giving you and the city attorney the ability to approve minor modifications. Do you have any ideas on what that could look like? I know there's a lot of parties that have to buy in on the sublease, but.
Right, I think what we're trying to do is kind of give some flexibility instead of having to go back to this board and the township board as well as the library board. I don't think we had anything necessarily in mind, but, and unfortunately, our attorney's on a different call right now, so I don't have any, I can't really call him right now to give you more information.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any comments called in yet? Do we hear our minute mark?
No callers just yet. No callers, sir.
Perfect. And no other council thoughts, ideas? Very good. We have a motion and a second to approve the proposed sublease. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Go to work. Next, City Council will be asked to receive an update from the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority, or MMRMA, regarding the city's current beach safety plan and consider establishing a committee to review and make recommendations to the council regarding modifications to the plan, including, this says whether to require lifeguards, but I think we're talking more than that, really. We're talking about just anything that they might come up with. A lot of things being considered, from closing piers to parking lots to beaches, so it's not just that item, so I want to be clear on that at the outset of this one, that we'd be making recommendations for a committee to just review a lot of options. So that's what we're talking about here. So I guess we're going to do the update first. Let's do the update. How's that sound?
All right. I do have his telephone number, and I gave it to Phil. Otherwise, we can dial it on this phone. Let me see if they've got him lined up.
Caller, you're on the city council.
Okay, this is Terry Van Dorn.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Terry, this is Kate. I have given council the guidelines to water and beach safety. And if you could, just kind of walk through the council on what is the current beach safety plan and how does that comply with MMRMA?
Could you say that again, Kate? You're kind of breaking up there.
Can you repeat that? Terry, this is Kate. We have received your beach and water safety guideline that's been distributed to the council. And as
Okay.
we talked on the beach, we had gone over the city's beach safety plan, the Marty Jordan Beach Safety Plan. And I was hoping you could update the council on what that plan looks like from a risk management perspective and any other comments you may have.
Oh, the beach safety plan is a really good plan. I mean, it covers a broad area of things that you can do to try to prevent drownings from occurring, from signage, warning of the risk, to undertow signs, riptide signs. Even the flag system is something that is a good thing to use. I mean, compared to other communities, I think you have a really good program.
Are we just going to pose questions at this point in time? Or I don't know if you had more of a presentation to walk through his thoughts. I mean,
Yeah, I think he was, I wanted to have him available for the council to interact with him. He risk manages what he does.
okay.
Is there any questions for the council for Mr. Van Dorn?
Well, can you share with us communities, I guess, that, I mean, we're considering a variety of things. We've talked, we're seeing where Holland is now looking at closing off their pier. I think that's one discussion item that we get asked frequently. Hey, it's a red flag. We got water over the pier. I think we just had a situation in Muskegon where they were out yesterday. You know, people were out yesterday.
Right.
I think we lost a life yesterday because someone didn't have, you know, again, so, but we'll ask a few questions. Things like closing off piers, do we run into trouble as a city? Does that make you nervous as a
Well,
risk?
one, you don't, just from a risk management standpoint, you don't own the pier, so closing the pier would be something that the Corps of Engineers would need to do. The thing that I was curious about was that I have a history with the city of South Haven. I've been with the program for over 30 years. And probably about 20 years ago, there was a lawsuit that the South Haven had in regards to someone leaving the city beach and crossing the city beach onto the pier. And the argument was that there was no clear definition of where the city park or city beach ended and the Corps of Engineers property started. So, and it's been redesigned. The area has, in the last 15 years or so. But there was a time when there was actually a sign that was posted just before you got to the pier along the beach line that basically said was that you are now leaving the city of South Haven beach and park property area. And so that was an identifier to let somebody know that once they left the park, they were on the Corps of Engineers property, because when they're on the city park or beach, there's a kind of a standard of care to be acknowledged or to be warned of hazards and things like that are on the park because you've invited them into the city park. But I didn't see that. That was the one thing that we did have a discussion about, that I didn't see that this time around the pier. So there's no real clear definition. And so I think that would be something that would enhance your ability to alleviate your connection to people accessing the pier.
Okay. Perfect. Good advice. That's something to look into immediately. I guess, well, we can go through a couple other ones, but obviously the discussion of lifeguards continues to kind of come up at different times. Any thoughts on communities that are using them, not using them, from a risk management standpoint?
Just from a risk management standpoint, it's what your community's desire is. There's no state law that says you have to have a lifeguard. But if you have a lifeguard, just like anything else, when you take on a new police officer or a new fire department person or a new DPW person, if they don't do their job correctly, you always have liability associated with that profession. So if you take on a lifeguard, then you have to make sure that, one, they're certified for, and especially in your area, for rough water training. You really can't take a lifeguard that's been certified through a pool because they won't have any experience in trying to rescue somebody in rough water. Two, you've got to train them. And three, you've got to have the right equipment. How do they get out to that person that's struggling? And a lot of times the rescues are not in the swim zone. They're outside of the swim zone. And so you're going to be swimming in a much farther distance. So it really depends on what your community's desire is. I mean, we have a few communities that do guarding. Some of it is limited guarding because they close at 6 o'clock at night. They don't do some, they're only limited for like maybe May through August. And so there'll be other periods of time during the year that people can get in the water and won't be any lifeguards there. And we do talk about limited guarding in that safety brochure that I did, had Kate forward to everybody. So it's really up to your own personal preference. I mean, if you can properly train and hire people and provide the right equipment, and then they can perform the task, then any person that they save is a good thing. But if they're unable to perform the task when called upon because of one of those issues, then that is always just like with any other employee, it's always questioned, and then there's a lawsuit they could possibly file. So there's no clear answer of is it good or is it bad. It really depends on how much a community has a desire for them and how much effort is put into the program. One, you have to budget money for it. I mean, so that's another budget line item that you'll have to look at. You have to purchase equipment, and you've got to have update training, and they've got to have the right kind of certification. So does that answer your question?
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you.
Quick question on that, though. On the limited lifeguarding, on a red flags, are they able to still rescue? Because I've heard some communities, they're not allowed to go out on red flags for rescues. Is that correct?
I'm really sorry. I'm having a hard time.
I know, it's with these
your
masks, it's
question.
not
I'm
very
sorry.
easy. I've heard that some communities, on a red flag, their guards are not allowed to actually go in the water and help rescue. Is that true, or I guess I'm trying to find out more information on this.
Yeah, I've never heard of somebody having a guard and not being able to go into the water. There's some places that try to do something called a beach guard. And what that person does is they maintain the beach and maintain order on the beach, like don't drink, no glass, no setting of fires, stuff like that. If there's a fight or something, they can call 911 and get the cops down there. And so that might be something that you're referring to. And strictly in those conditions. Since they're not properly trained, they don't have the right equipment, we don't recommend that they go into the water and save somebody.
Okay.
Makes sense. Okay. Any other just general questions? Here you go. Shoot.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay?
Yep. We got another question coming.
Yeah, I've got a question. I grew up on beaches in New Jersey, and the one thing I always remember about the various beaches, they had enormous signs that when the water was unsafe, everybody knew not to go in the water. Now, you can always break the law and go in, but large signs seem to be a deterrent. So if a sign was there and we could put in a piece every day, safe, not safe, do not go in. If you had a big enough sign that said do not go in, that would seem like it would deter people from going in. I'm not sure people even know sometimes they're not even aware of good judgment of whether to go in or not. So I think the first thing the city could do, real simple, is put up some permanent signage structures and then be able to change them daily or even by the hour if we had to, and let the people know if it's not safe. Is that even a possibility, or is that a thought?
No, I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, we did talk about some places have a large, I don't know, what do you call it, a display board, or a lot of times it looks like a big, what do you call those road signs, you know, where they're that big, where they, every day, they might have what the water condition is, which is correlated to your flag system. And so on the back of one of the buildings, we did talk about doing a display there. You're already putting something up there. I can't remember what it is. Kate, maybe you can refresh my memory, but I think you're doing the time and the weather or the temperature. And at the same place that I think that you could also install another message. We talked about a bulletin board on the way in, which they could maybe dial into a radio station, or you could have a message on there if you got an electronic board, which you could change the message. You could change the message as seemed fit. So the biggest thing is getting the word out to people and warning them of the hazards. We talked about having, I think, a couple of flag stations on the two beaches, a little bit larger, so that we can be seen by visitors to the beach a little bit more easier. So yes, I mean, any form of communication will drastically help get the information out to those people and hopefully make them aware of the issues.
Terry, I want to circle back to the pier for a second. We're really kind of thinking about, while we understand that it's not our pier, and you said we really need to make sure that we're identifying our boundaries, what if we do proceed with a gate or even just a rope with a closed sign? What kind of litigation situation would that put us in, or wouldn't it, or what does that open up for us?
That's more of a liability question. You'd want to ask an attorney, but I would say that if you're putting a gate in front of the pier and it's open and closed at times, that's a perception that you are in control of access of the pier.
Okay, and then
So I know. You can always have put gates and control devices on your access points of your own park. So you could put something there, but I mean, it's not like it's leading to a parking lot or it's leading to a trail system to an attraction. It's leading to the pier, and you don't own the pier. So it would kind of give a misconception that you're regulating access to the pier by having that device there.
okay. And then my next question kind of relates, but you may have addressed it, that I need to talk to an attorney, that South Haven, we have 7 beaches. And people focus a lot of their attention on the North Beach and the South Beach, but we have the additional 5 beaches. If we have a beach guard or a lifeguard on the 2 primary beaches, what kind of trouble do we get in for not having the other 5 protected?
So I think your question is having guards on the 2 main beaches?
Yeah, and what if we don't have all 7 covered?
I didn't get that last part.
I was just saying, what if we don't have all 7 beaches covered? What if we only have lifeguards
Okay.
or beach guards
Yeah.
on the
I
2
mean,
primary?
You don't have to have every beach covered. You can designate a beach or two that you're going to have guarded, as long as you promote that on your website, public notice it, put signs up at those beaches. And also the beaches that you don't have a guard at, that you also put a sign up at those unguarded beaches that say, hey, these 2 particular beaches, the north and south, have lifeguards. So if I'm a parent and I read that sign, I understand that by me going on this particular beach, there is no guard, but I have opportunity to go to these 2 other beaches where there are guards provided.
Okay,
There's
great.
nothing that says if you provide guards on one beach, you have to provide them on every beach. But it's always a good idea to promote on those unguarded beaches where you actually have guarding, if you provide that. That way a parent can make their decision.
Good, that's good information, thank you.
Okay, I have a semi-related one that I think Kate and I were talking a little bit about it today, but it's the question of, so we don't own the pier, we know that. We've also heard that once you enter the water, you exit the city's property and you entering the water is the state's, is the whoever. So can we, as the city, can we say on a red flag day, stay out of the water? Are we allowed to do that? I don't know, and maybe that's just a legal question, it's probably way more, but I mean, I think, are we allowed
Well,
to?
too, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to say stay out of the water, how do you enforce it? So that's the key. So one community at one time, I'd have to check back with them, creating an ordinance. But it got to be kind of an issue with all of a sudden now you've got an ordinance, because really when you say don't do something or no, that's an enforcement type of wording. So you need to enforce that. And a lot of times the only way you can get somebody out there is to create an ordinance. But it's not as easily done and as practical as it may seem when you put it onto an ordinance. So one community had that kind of an ordinance where they ran a red flag and they said beach is closed. Everybody's got to be out of the water. They ran a bullhorn. They acknowledged it and announced it very loudly up and down the beach. And they gave them like 30 minutes to exit the beach. And if they didn't, they called the cops down. But then the cops were going down there and chasing people all over the place. Sometimes the kids would stay, or the younger people would stay out in the water, and so then you got an officer down there on the beach monitoring and trying to catch them coming off. It didn't really work. It did for certain instances or circumstances where you could maybe really be able to approach somebody and in essence capture them, but it just got to be a little difficult to do that. It's a lot of times what we're trying to do with the red flag is warn the user to the hazard, and that the conditions are so hazardous that imminent danger is there. And so by warning them, there's something called recreational immunity. Besides just regular governmental immunity act in our state, we have another thing called Recreational Immunity Act, and that allows you to have immunity if you warn the user to the known hazard. And if they take on that hazard, then that's called per se negligence, and they assume the risk of that hazard. So the flag system, and when you post your flag system, you have a little bit of a description of it, have it on your website, post it on public notice, have it out there on the sign, wherever else you can produce it, and then you are telling them that when it's high water, it's a hazard. And you're warning them, and hopefully they'll get out of the water. Otherwise, it's a logistical enforcement nightmare.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Any other questions?
Real quick, I guess. With guards, what authority do they have to make someone leave the water?
So you said with lifeguards, what
Yeah.
authority?
I'm just trying to understand it a little bit.
So, I'm sorry, could you repeat your question, please?
With lifeguards in the other cities, so if somebody is in the water and they ask them to come out of the water, what authority do they have to actually make them come out of the water?
I have to apologize. I'm not really getting that question. It's not coming through. Are you asking me what authority does a lifeguard have to enter the water to make a save?
No.
He was asking what authority does the lifeguard does a lifeguard have to make somebody get out of the water, assuming there was a red flag or there were hazards out there?
Right, right. I mean, it's the same thing. It comes down to enforcement. You have to go out there and you run a boat. I mean, it's a confrontation issue. So, I mean, you can warn them, you can tell them they have to get out of the water, it's a red, warn them of it, but if you're going to say no swimming when the red flag is out, you have to have some form of enforcement. And you really don't want a lifeguard strong-arming some guy out of the water. So, I mean, really, lifeguards are there to save and to educate and to warn the beach users.
Sounds good.
So, they really wouldn't have, we really wouldn't want them forcing people to get out, unless they have some form of enforcement that backs them up. And so then you get into having an ordinance, and then you have law enforcement coming down, and, it sounds great in theory. You have 30 young people out there on the beach, and they won't leave, and it's hard to get them all off the water. The ones that are reasonable, that are, thinking about their lives or are understanding the warning, they'll come off the beach. There'll be a handful of people that will continue to want to, if they surf, play around in the water or whatever, because they feel invincible at that age. They don't think they're going to get, drown or have an injury. So it's really, lifeguards are not really designed for that kind of enforcement. They're more to save lives, to educate, to manage the beach, that kind of thing. Anything comes down to enforcement, it's more of an ordinance. But like I said before, the experience I've had, it's very difficult to enforce something like that.
Okay. Thank you. All right, very good. Any other questions?
I had a couple comments or questions. I thought the report was very good, and one of the things I liked, there was a section on limited lifeguarding, and I guess my question is, if I understand if you limit the hours that you have the beach guarded, or you limit the days the beach is guarded, but do any other beaches have guards but don't quite follow? Like there's one thing on page 75 that said the lifeguard structures or towers should be positioned such that you can reach the most distant point of the swim area in 40 seconds. And it would seem like if you're going to make that ability, you're going to have, I'm thinking of the North Beach, you're going to have probably a lot of lifeguard towers to accommodate that type of response time. And I'm just wondering, do other municipalities, do they vary from that guideline and very much, or are you taking on too much risk if you try to have a lifeguard program but don't quite adhere to all the details of the regulations?
Our safety brochure is an advisory in nature, and those are from industry standards that we've produced that information from. So from that point, that being said, it's an industry standard, and that's kind of what you would want to work towards. To reach that goal of 20 seconds, you'd have to provide them with some kind of a vessel or something for them to be able to do that, especially in rough water. So you might want, a couple places, just like if you look out in the California and other coastal type of states, they use a jet ski. They might use a paddle board. They might use, they used to use rowboats, but they're kind of clunky and big and hard to get out. So something that's easily used to be able to get right out to that person is what you would be looking for in rough water rescue. By the time a person swims 20 seconds out in rough water and tries to rescue somebody, they're going to be really tired. Now, you can probably go 20 seconds in an inland lake without a lot of wave action or undertow and get there and still have enough energy to maybe make a save because you've got your flotation device with you. But, in reality speaking, especially with the water that you're dealing with, and if you go out there sometimes, you've got 8 to 10 foot waves. or more. You know, I don't live out there, but you guys can probably attest to that. So then you have to look at, okay, if I have a lifeguard and I have somebody either at the farthest most point of my designated beach area or just outside of that, because most of the time the drownings occur just outside of the beach designated area, how am I going to get that guard out there, you know, within a reasonable time, 20 to 30 seconds, you know, at the very most, I guess, and how am I going to have them physically ready to be able to make that safe? And so, I mean, that's how you would kind of look at it. With limited guarding, you'd have to change your signs. You know, during the day, you know, you'd have a different sign than then at night. When you close shop at 6 o'clock, there could still be swimmers there till 9, 10 o'clock because it's sunny out. And so it'd be something swim at your own risk, no lifeguard on duty, deep water, strong current, undertow. And so you'd have to warn them, you know, and then also a part of that would be lifeguards are on duty, and you put your on-duty times, which is a lot of times it's 10 or 9 to 6 o'clock. But some people will swim and get in the water before the time that your lifeguards come on. They'll get in the water after your lifeguards leave. So if you do a limited guarding, you have to have what we call a flip sign system.
All right, thank you. I had another question. I guess one thing I found interesting in the report, it talked about lightning detection, and I don't know if we have anything like that at our beaches, but it seemed like it was a good idea. And do you have any more information about lightning detection at beaches?
Yeah, I mean, it's a part of the weather program that you would have. I mean, if you're going to do a flag system, you need to be monitoring the weather. So you need to have somebody here or a group of people that are designated. They're on, you know, with the national NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Association, that produces weather-related and water-related information. They need to be monitoring that information and you know, be responsible for that information.
Would that be a red flag situation then? If you had lightning nearby, would you then change your
Absolutely.
flag color?
Absolutely. And you might, you know, that would be a part of your flag system. It's dangerous conditions, either the water conditions or weather conditions. It could be a tornado, it could be lightning, it could be something like that that gets the people off the beach and out of the water, not just, you know, severe high water. A lot of times with wind comes rain and lightning, and so, you know, it's when you have severe weather, the red flag is a part of that because it all affects the water itself. And the lightning would be a part of your flag system warning program.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? I think we've covered it. All right, very good.
Thank you, Terry.
My pleasure. I appreciate being able to talk to you guys about your safety program. I think you're heading in the right direction. We did talk a little bit about some things that you might want to consider to enhance it, but overall, I think you're moving in the right direction.
Sounds good. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
And then, Kate, you just want a recommendation just to, again, to form the committee to just make recommendations? I'm just going to keep it more generic regarding, is that?
That's right.
Okay.
As you've heard tonight, that there's a wide variety of what we can be looking at to enhance our beach safety. In just what we went out there, the Corps had taken down their big yellow signs that says now entering the federal pier. That's them taking them down, but that doesn't prevent us from putting our own signs up that says leaving the city beach. So that's something we've already started here with the sign shop. I do have at least 3 callers on the phone. I don't know if you want to get through the committee formation, if you want to take those callers now.
Why don't we just get a motion, a second on the formation of the committee, and then we'll, well, I guess, do the callers. Go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, we'll have Phil, if you can send up the first caller.
Caller Muller, you're on with the city council. You'll have 5 minutes to make your comments. When you're finished, just state that you're done, and before you start, state your name.
Okay. Ready to start now?
Yep, you can go ahead.
Hello, my name is Dave Benjamin. I'm the co-founder, executive director of the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project. Last night, I emailed the entire city council as well as the fire chief, police chief, a few other essential personnel, which had a video of 4 kids struggling for almost 30 minutes at South Beach. And as you can see in the video, I hope everyone had a chance to watch it. If not, please do watch it and watch all almost 28 minutes of it. There are red flags flying, but there's no enforcement of the red flags. The red flags are on a post, so if you're at the water's edge, you're not going to see what's behind you. So there's a couple things. But ideally, having lifeguards on duty could have prevented those kids from entering the water. The 4 kids struggle for over almost 30 minutes. 3 of them had boogie boards, appeared 1 did not. But you can clearly see that they go out in the water, probably waist high, chest high. Next, they're getting pulled in a long shore current parallel the shore to the pier, and they're being pulled out along the pier. South Haven has an excellent response time to getting to the beach if there's a 911 call, but if that 911 call doesn't come for, 25 minutes, then they're getting there 28 minutes too late. I thank you for putting, water safety and lifeguards on the agenda for tonight and having that risk management person, had some very, very great points. A couple things I wanted to add to that was, one, the flag system is designed to be a tool for lifeguards, not a replacement or substitute for lifeguards, especially if there's no enforcement. Do lifeguards have authority to order people out of the water? They can control the beach when there's red flag conditions and, tell people to stay out of the water. If they don't listen, they don't listen. It can become a police matter if it's something's unruly. Really, they're there to educate the public about the hazards and to save lives, to perform rescues. Equipment for lifeguards is similar to what you see in a pool. They have a foam rescue tube or a rescue can. For open water, it's optional if they want to wear swim fins, which is going to more than double their strength and speed in the water. There could also be a rescue surfboard. So Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project, we do provide open water surf lifeguard in service training. We train with the International Surf Life Saving Association and Lifeguards Without Borders. But what we recommend is that the USLA, United States Life Saving Association, be involved and go from their manual. Most rescues are not going to be happening when there's waves that are 10 feet tall. Usually waves 6 feet or taller scare people smart to stay out of the water, stay away from the water. So, if you look at those kids on that video, those waves are maybe 3 feet. They really were not that big. And for someone who's trained with open water surf rescue, that was really nothing. They just got in water over their head and they didn't know how to escape the currents that they were in. My time's going quick. I do want to talk specifically about the timeline of drowning. And when we look at the timeline of drowning, we're going to look at 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and 10 minutes. If a person is struggling in water over their head and they do not have any flotation, typically less than 1 minute until final submersion. If this person is pulled out of the water and given rescue breaths properly, under 2 minutes, it's about a 94% survival rate. But around 3 minutes of submersion, their heart may stop. Around 4 minutes of submersion, irreversible brain damage begins. And around
caller,
10 minutes of submersion, if that person is then pulled out of the water, it's only about a 14% survival rate if rescue breaths and CPR is properly performed, and they will probably have a lifelong brain injury, could be vegetative state.
Caller, you got about 30
survive
seconds,
after the 10-minute mark.
and then you'll be muted. You got about 30 seconds.
Okay, so it is essential to have lifeguards trained to understand what drowning looks like, to be watching the water so that they can, one, if they see someone who's getting into a dangerous situation, make a preventative action to interrupt that they don't even get in trouble to begin with. If they do get in water, they have the rescue equipment and training to get to that person in less than a minute to provide flotation, get them out of the water. If a person submerges, they have the training and rescue equipment to give the rescue breaths. They are just as important as a firefighter or a police officer. Gary, Indiana has lifeguards at 3 beaches, and there's one beach that doesn't have lifeguards. But what they do have is they have police or DNR patrol where they will be on ATVs, and they back up the lifeguards to keep people out of the water. And the beach that does not have lifeguards, they patrol that beach, and they order them on as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much, caller. Thank you for the call. Let's be very clear. At 5 minutes, we're going to mute them. We got to let that be known.
We'll take the next caller, Phil.
Caller, you're on with the city council. Please state your name, and then you'll have 5 minutes. When you finish with your comments, please state that you're done.
Thank you. My name is Carol Smith-Sandy, and I want to first thank you, the council, for taking up this very important issue of lifeguard and water safety. I just want to support the comments, especially Dave Benjamin and I missed some of the other report because I was on hold with the phone, but I strongly support having lifeguards on public beaches, especially in the Great Lakes. The gentleman who indicated in New Jersey that they had signs and that seemed to be sufficient, I would agree with the comments that red flags and signs are not meant to be a substitute for lifeguards, that sometimes signs get knocked over. They sometimes are in a position where people don't see them. They're behind them. And I think that's not enough. We need lifeguards. We need safety on the beaches. We need to make our Michigan beaches the place to be, as safe as many of the beaches in Florida and California, which I think are state-of-the-art, many of them. And we should be as good or better as these beaches. I want our state to be the tourist capital and have the best beaches and the safest beaches. So I also think that just having the right equipment and having this be a budget item. If this is the time to act now, because then we need to hire people in the winter, and there's a lot of people, I believe, who would be interested. There are water polo students and swim team members and so forth that would be looking for a summer job. I think this is very doable. I think this should be a number one goal for your community. I would say for many of these communities, but I'm looking at South Haven right now in support of the people working on this. And so I just urge you, please have lifeguards on your beaches. Have them safe. Have your tourists, spread the word what great beaches you have there. And I just want to support these comments. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, Carol, what is your address?
I live in Metro Detroit. I frequent up north. I'm in Troy, Michigan, and my youngest son died in Lake Michigan, drowning. And I wanted to mention one more quick thing. When there's signs out that say no swimming, but there are a lot of people on the beach, that's sort of misleading, because when you see a lot of people on the beach, even though there's signs out, your instinct is, that's, it's okay to be here because there's 20 families out on the beach, so the signs must not mean anything. So that's another important issue, that when you have a lot of people on the beach, people don't really pay attention to the signs or the flags. They think kind of, that it must be okay because I see moms and dads and children on the beach. It should be okay. So, but I have been a Michigander all my life and love going up north and love our lakes. I want them to be safe.
Very good. We appreciate your comments. Thank you.
All right, next caller. I think we only have 3 right now.
Okay.
5 minutes. When you finish with your comments, just state that you're done. You'll want to turn down your TV too.
I should have it muted now. Is that better?
Yep. Yep, you're good to go.
Okay. My name is Cameron Doherty, and I live at 522 Edgell Street in South Haven, Michigan. I just wanted to take a moment and thank the city manager, the council, and mayor for adding this truly important topic to tonight's agenda and for any thoughts or efforts you've already put into this matter to date. I understand that the summer and swim season has passed, but continued focus on this topic throughout the fall and winter is extremely important. There are a lot of options in addition to the possibility of a trained and certified lifeguard program that can be implemented, and I've worked to share some of those suggestions from the South Haven Life page with each of you. I'd also like to share that I appreciate all of the good that has come from the Marty Jordan plan. I do think, though, that it's become clear that this is the time to enhance that plan, and I'm hopeful that we've got the momentum now to get that ball rolling. As I've mentioned before, I have put together a good number of resources, including information and resources for lifeguard training and potential costs, plus a lot of research I'm happy to share at any point with you. I'm just a phone call, email, or text away. I would also strongly encourage each of you to continue to engage former program director and former lifeguard Sean Russell. He could truly help to answer a lot of the questions that you've asked of the gentleman that was on the call earlier, and speak to the fact that we solved for a lot of those issues with prior year's programs. A quick note to Mr. Campbell, who was asking a question earlier about red flags and the authority to remove or ability to remove somebody who's swimming on red flag days. I think the important thing to remember is that red flag days on a guarded beach, people aren't in the water. That is a lifeguard's primary responsibility, is to keep people out of the water on those red days to prevent issues from happening to begin with. An additional thing to consider is currently we are a swim at your own risk beach, so even when we have red flags flying, that warning is undermined by the swim at your own risk signage. Would we move to a guarded beach situation? We could then enforce no swimming on red flag days. There was also a question about the number of beaches we have and where we could or would or should provide lifeguards. In the past, we provided lifeguards only at the North and South Beach. That was for a couple of reasons. The first was those were the most frequently visited beaches. The second, and I think probably most important, is the additional hazards that are faced on those beaches by way of the pier structures. And the impact that those piers have on longshore currents. So you have additional safety risks at South or North Beach versus Dykeman Park or Packard Beach. And then the last thing I want to note is that I think it's really important to look to Holland right now, as Mayor Smith mentioned earlier. Holland has gone ahead and gotten what they need to in order to start gating off their pier. Through my research, I understand that our pier is technically owned by the Army Corps of Engineers, but from what I have seen and from what Holland has shared, they ultimately leave it up to the municipalities to keep people safe on those piers. And so adding a gate is absolutely a possibility based on my research. Again, I'm happy to help however I can, provide any of the research I have whenever you'd like to see it. Just reach out.
Very good. Thanks,
Thank you.
Cam. Appreciate it.
On whether or not to shutter the piers, we would have to apply and have an agreement in place with the Corps of Engineers to place a structure on there. I've reached out to see what that application would take. There's quite a bit of back and forth that will be needed, so it won't be an overnight thing.
Yeah.
More importantly, what I've learned from other communities is that we have to also look at what the gate would look like, and we'd have to have an agreement who's going to be monitoring that. So we've got to set some standards up. I appreciate the urgency. However, I don't have a good reason to rush and not be very detailed in what we're doing out there.
Correct. Which, and I think, just to be clear, we're simply looking, as I want to be clear, I think the motion we'll be looking for is just to form a committee to look at beach safety and make recommendations, period. I mean, whatever those recommendations might be, that would be the motion I'd be looking for. And just whether it be, is it possible to gate off the pier? Because there's a lot that goes with that. Is it signage? Is it, we've heard from our risk manager, better signage, more clear signage. I mean, we heard the Channel 3 interviews where people were unaware that red meant danger. So maybe it's as simple as, red flag is high risk of death. I don't know, whatever we've got to do to make it simple. So that would be my recommendation, or to look for establishing a committee to review and make recommendations regarding our beach safety, period.
Yep, and if there's any one council member who may be interested in serving on that committee.
I think he has volunteered. Mr. Chris Campbell is our designated. He's already had a few rescues, and I think he flies around on these boards, and he's offered free lessons to all of us in this room if we want to go with him. So I'd like to do it if I could be guaranteed I would not end up in Wisconsin.
I could promise anything.
Darn. Okay. So, got to get a motion to establish such said committee?
So how would we say this? We would like to make I'd like to make a motion to create a beach safety committee to advise the council.
Yep.
Yes, that would be the motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
Very good. So we have a motion and a second to establish the beach safety committee and make recommendations to the council. Any other discussion? Joe?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment on this. I am sure not the expert in lifeguards and the good and bad about it, but I will say this. One thing we all agree on, we don't want any drownings. It's tragic beyond words. But I think I was taking notes of everything I've heard, and there seems to be two different trains of thought here. One is rescue, and clearly a lifeguard on the beach 10, 20, 30 foot away from a drowning will have a greater chance than a phone call to our police and have them come. The other issue, though, is prevention, and that's a whole different issue. How do we stop it from happening to begin with? Lifeguards can help, but signs can help. And the woman that said, I talked about signs, my idea of signs is not new. They're in some of the best beaches around the world. They help prevention. They do not pull people out of water. So I think signs aren't mutually exclusive from lifeguards. It's two separate issues. But I do think the best thing we can do as a city is take steps to prevent drownings to begin with, prevent people from getting in those horrible positions, going in the water. I've seen it. I can see it from my home, people going in the water with terrible conditions. So we've got to have some way of doing this. The part that scares me in this discussion tonight is the whole thing about lifeguards may not even have the authority to get people, ask them to get out of the water. Now, that just throws me, because growing up in New Jersey beaches, I can tell you, and I go there every summer for a week, and when those lifeguards blow the whistles, and they're doing it all day, they tell people how far they can go in the water, they tell them when they can't go in the water, and people listen, and if they don't listen, they call the police, and the police come down and escort them off the beach. The last part, if we want to do this, and if we want to take this to the fullest extent we can with lifeguards, most places have lifeguards also charged to go on the beach. And that's a horrible situation. I don't like paying to go on beaches. I think beaches should always be free. But if we're going to look at lifeguards, one of the things the committee should look at is the cost, and should we charge for having lifeguards and then charging on the beach. And please don't say I am saying money comes before life. It doesn't. I'm just saying if we're going to have a good program, one of the options we should look at is charging to go on the beach if we want to have lifeguards. So all those issues should come into play. And the very last thing I want to say, we talk about best practices. I told the city council once before, please call Cape May, New Jersey. I have talked to them twice. I was questioned on it. I called them back last year. They have never, ever, according to them, had a drowning, and they have lifeguards. Just a couple miles up on New Jersey beaches is Wildwood, much bigger town. They have lifeguards. They have had drownings. So I'd like to know why one town has never had one and one has them. And I think we should look at best practices. Why try to reinvent the wheel? Anyhow, that's all my thoughts about lifeguards. And I say all that not having any one side on this thing either way and not being an expert. It just seems like there's a lot of issues here. Thanks.
Yeah, there are a lot of issues. Okay, any other questions? And if not, we have a motion and a second to establish said committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We'll get it established.
Mayor, there was 3 more callers. Do you want to move on, or do you want to
Move
take
on.
those callers?
Yep, we're done. Next, City Council will be asked to consider approval of the procedures for remote participation for board members policy.
Oh, sorry about that, sir.
Oh, I'm just waiting for a motion. You're good.
I'm just trying to, so we're just thinking because of the current recommendations from the state government, we're going to be going remote?
Actually, this came about, the recent changes to the Open Meetings Act.
Okay.
So to be compliant with those changes, the city does have to have an adopted remote participation by board members policy. And so outside of the current MDHHS order, we did have to come up with something that allows for if a person falls ill, is participating in military duty, ways that they can call in and participate in the meeting. Of course, this is for immediate participation, and this contemplates calling in, via phone, as long as there's two-way conversation. So this kind of gets around some of the face Zoom meetings where you have to be present. So this kind of sets this out. I have the attorney on the line if you'd like me to dial him in, if you have more questions.
No? I'll make a motion to approve the procedures for remote participation for board member policy.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Public comment 6370777. While we're waiting for that, we will likely have to switch our next meeting per the governor's orders. We'll mention that at the end.
On that
but,
topic,
we-
yep.
We will, at least the next meeting, and who knows, it's a 3-week order. I think the next meeting is, 3 weeks.
December 7th.
Yeah, so that one will have to be
Yes.
remote.
And if we'd had this in place, we maybe would have avoided the beach sticker deadlock
Have.
Oh,
because Letitia wasn't here.
that's true.
We wouldn't
That's
have had
true.
that.
Oh, shoot.
But it worked out good because
It did work out well.
we got a lot of
Not
public
that I called,
feedback.
not that I voted 355 times. but I did.
No caller, sir.
All right. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other council comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, it is approved. The next item, as just alluded to, the city council will be asked to consider a motion to approve Design C, created by local artist Jennifer Sistrunk, as the 2021 to 2023 beach parking sticker.
I'll make a motion to approve Design C, created by local artist.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I guess we'll have to allow some public comments, 6370777. But the public did vote on this one. Kate, what was the final tally?
Final tally I came up with was 637 votes for option C and 372 votes for option D. So that roughly comes out to 63% versus 36.9%.
Excellent choice.
Yes.
See people getting involved on that. Responding.
It's a They're both very cool,
Yeah,
I will say.
all
It's
of
a,
them.
it's a good one to have some
Even the
public
ones-
dialogue on, so I will say, it was,
Yeah.
I'm glad we,
Even
might
the
have
ones
come
that-
up with a new way to pick the sticker in the future, so,
I was gonna say, even the ones that didn't make it this far really had, Jennifer really put some time and thought into them. They were all really nice. They really did a nice job.
so hats off to Jennifer for creating them, and maybe we'll have to bring her to a future council meeting and let her show off.
Very talented young lady.
Absolutely.
Okay, it looks like no callers for the.
No callers, they voted already. Perfect. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Design C. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. New stickers coming. Item 12, citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda. Number 637-0777. If you'd like to discuss an item we have not already discussed tonight, you can call on in.
We'll wait for the 1 minute from Phil.
Yeah, no, that's good. I will say I miss the public. I sort of,
We should do cutouts.
yeah, we could have cutouts in the audience here. There we go.
Caller, you're on the city council, please state your name and address, and then you'll have 5 minutes. When you finish, just state that you're done.
Okay. My name is Nancy Nat, and I live at the factory condos. My first, well, it's a question. I was wondering if there's any update on the Overton project, because I have not heard anything since the last, well, it was like two city council meetings ago. And I also swim at the beach a lot and just had some observations about our flag system. If you wanted any of my opinion about that, I'd be happy to share that. But I know that's probably something you don't want to hear about, but I thought I'd offer it.
Well, why don't we, you want to give her the update first, and then,
If she can turn that down,
Caller, you'll want to turn your television down.
It's off.
Okay.
Yeah.
The update about the Overton is that the city council at their last meeting did approve or I think it was the last meeting, we approved the 6 months due diligence agreement. That has been executed, so both sides are now looking into to see if this project would work for both parties. Recently, the Habitat did attend the recent Belgravia Factory Condos public town hall meeting that was hosted by the city and attended by EGLE, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, the former DEQ, as well as with their remediation consultant, GRT. So we received about an hour-long presentation discussing the remediation that was on site. They will be looking into any brownfield considerations on that site, but right now, there's really nothing else moving along, just both sides doing some due diligence options.
right. And again, very early in the process, nothing's been decided. We still have a lot of work to do, so that's where we are
Okay.
with that. And then, yeah, I guess your thoughts on the flags, what do you got?
Well, I'm out there a lot during the summer, and just as far as the flag system goes, I'm not going to go into the whole lifeguard debate, but I think there needs to be more consistency in the flags because I would, for instance, go down the blue stairs on the South Beach, and the flag would be yellow, and I'd do open water swimming and would swim towards the pier. And because I live here, I would notice that the flag at the pier was red. And if I was a visitor, I wouldn't take notice of that. So my recommendation would be to have, if it's going to be a red flag day, I think it should be red flag across all the beaches. And also, I think we need to look at that whole consideration of having red flags when there is lightning in the area. And I think we also need to change the flags more often than we do on the beach. I'm not sure what the protocol is for how often they get changed, but, I think that's something else we should look into if we want to improve our flag system. Those are my comments on the flags.
Very good. Thanks for your call.
No other colors, sir.
Okay. That takes us to city manager comments, and you're going to pass it to Travis, too, so.
That's right. One change I did want to let the council know and anybody attending, the second workshop for the coastal resiliency, we were hoping to have November 24th. However, I've heard back from our friends at LEA who want to do more analysis on all of our master plans and our ordinances, so they're asking to move the date to December 8th. That would be the second Tuesday of the month. I've worked this out with both the townships and ourselves, and it doesn't appear that there's a meeting that night. So that would be a change that will be going up on our city's website, as well as a new notice being posted. Secondly, as we were talking about changes to, obviously, our meeting schedule, currently when we do a hybrid meeting where the council is calling in from home, and then we have the public call, the number 637-0777, that causes about a 1-minute delay. We have contemplated going to the Zoom format where everyone has to be there, and you can click on the public, and the public has their part to speak, but there is no 1-minute delay. Now, the downside to that is that if people don't have internet access, they would not see the meeting and be allowed to interact with the council live with the 1-minute delay. Additionally, the other thing is that we couldn't do a live show on Channel 21 like we do right now. So that's something to keep in mind, that we might be moving into the Zoom instead of doing the go-to meeting. But just let the council know if there are substantial concerns, please let us know. We'll work them out IT-wise, but that may be something we're going to. It seems to be a much easier platform than the go-to meeting.
There's a vaccine coming soon. Let's hope this is over. Come on.
And then with that, I defer to Travis, who wants to discuss our numbers and our voter turnout from last election.
Yep. So the election went very smooth last week here. That's a credit to the boatload of election inspectors that we had working here on Tuesday. I think we had 28 of them. We needed each and every one of them. They were awesome. So those are the folks that made this happen. We had, as of the election day, we had 3,749 registered voters. We had a turnout of 2,589, so that's 69.06% turnout. So that is ahead, I believe, of what the state's rate was, which was somewhere around 60%. So we had very good turnout numbers.
Very good, thank you. And wonderful work on your part, by the way. I was able to get in early, despite the large turnout, and still get in and out in quite a reasonable fashion. So thank you for you and to all the workers that showed up that day to make that happen. So very good process. All right, very good. That takes us to councilperson comments. I'll start to the left. Mr. Reeser.
No comment, thanks.
Hi, everyone. My comment was just a quick one. We had a couple of callers when we were talking about the beach committee that didn't get to speak. It's not that we didn't want to hear from you. We're just getting started, so we certainly do want to hear your thoughts. Email Chris, talk to that committee, and then we're certainly just getting this kicked off on beaches and lifeguards and signs and all that good stuff. So we do want to hear from you. That was my only comment.
Very good. Thanks, sir.
No comment tonight.
I do want to say that I appreciate everyone that called in to give us their input. I think it's very valuable, and I think I'm looking forward to making our beaches safer. As Councilmember Reeser said, the worst thing that can happen is to lose somebody in our waters of Lake Michigan. So I'm hoping we can maybe use some technology that might not have been available a number of years ago to help improve it, whether it's cameras or some other kind of monitoring devices that might help, and whatever we can do to make our beaches safer, I think will be beneficial, and I think we'll get there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Well stated. Thank you. Just a reminder, as we all heard from the governor last night, things are changing again, but still continue to support those local businesses. I know our restaurants will, a lot of them are still doing takeout, so order out. They need our help. It's been a crappy year, to say the least, and now they're having to shut their doors again, so keep them in mind as you're out the next couple weeks. Please continue to wear your masks, get your flu shot. And speaking of the beach, has anybody noticed the beach is coming back a little bit? I know people have noticed it's slowly returning. The water's heading down, we hope. Keep fingers crossed. I don't know if people are noticing, but it appears to be back. So we have that, and good work on the voter turnout. And yes, comments. We look forward to all the comments. Sorry we didn't get them all in tonight. We're done with the public section on that one, but we'll get a lot of comments coming up. And this will end the public part of this meeting. We are going to be going into a closed session. So this will end the airing of our meeting at this point in time. So I want to thank everybody for calling in. As always, for those that showed up in person, for those that watched, thank you for watching. And we all are available, a variety of mechanisms if you want to communicate with us. So at this point in time, I will seek a motion to go into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268H to discuss a written legal opinion.
I make a motion that we go into closed session.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Kate, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, sir, just a roll call vote.
Yep. Roll call, please, Travis.
Campbell,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Very good. Thanks again for tuning in.